The heat rising here in Dubai. We are near high noon, and we are ready for a couple heavyweight showdowns in the open division here at the World Beach Championships of Ultimate 2015. This first open matchup features the men from Great Britain against the team from Japan. Great Britain off to a fantastic 3-0 start. Certainly thinking about a gold medal as this week progresses. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to the beaches of Dubai. I'm Evan Lepler, joined by one of the great voices of Ultimate, Brian Jones. And Brian, certainly this team from the United Kingdom, pretty stacked, full of Clapham champions from years past.
And you said it, full of Clapham champions. There's only one other player here that's not from Clapham, and we've talked to Captain Justin Ford. It was about Sam Bowen integrating with the team. A U23 player for Great Britain's come in seamlessly integrated, very athletic, very powerful. And for this team from Great Britain, they're looking to win. Like you said, they're going for gold. They were a team that narrowly missed defeating Revolver, the U.S. champion from years past, and the world champion last year in Lecco, Italy. They lost by 1 point, and they also made the finals in 2012 in Japan. So they're looking to get over the hump, prove to the world that they can win on this stage.
Yeah, Great Britain has always been on the fringe of that top tier internationally. Do you believe they are ready to rise into the discussion as a true threat to the United States?
They're ready to rise completely into this realm. This is, like you said, an all-star cast out in the field. Justin Ford is one of the top 10 players in the world, and they said last year they would have thought maybe mentally about worrying about Revolver going into that game. Now here they're saying, you know what, we're going to focus on ourselves a little bit more. We're going to go for the gold.
Over the course of the broadcast, fortunate for those of us who were in the middle of the night,
I was lucky to have the game off, Evan, and so I got sideline access. I almost got hit by the final huck from Cassidy Rasmussen going over my, actually intended for Cassidy Rasmussen. Bo sent it out for the win.
It's hard to follow the scores from afar and try to grasp the flavor of a tournament-defining and legacy-defining game for so many individuals and teams. You know, what do you think the narrative would have been if these guys from Great Britain and Clapham had taken down Revolver?
Great Britain would have arrived is what the storyline would have been. Is once you take down a Titan like that, there's no going back to the day where you couldn't do that anymore. It's, you know, you have to prove that it's not a fluke, but you've arrived on that scene as a Japan, because Japan gets respect because of years past when they've beaten U.S. teams and won those games.
And club nationals, of course. Revolver had another Universe Point quarterfinal, and this time it did not go their way.
And Justin Ford was actually on the team for that, playing with Toronto Goat. He's done that for the past few summers. And I personally had to contend with him as a coach of New York Pony.
That can't be fun.
Very tough to defend.
Japanese team centers the disc. Yusuke Wakai. Now to the near sideline, Tsukasi Makino. A lot of youth on this team. Japanese knew they would have significantly less experience than their opponents, but so far looking pretty calm and content in running the system, and a little slash cut to the end zone to tie it 2-2. Shogo Inoguchi, another guy who is just in his second year of competitive Ultimate, but the captain Yokomoto says he basically is one of our best handlers, one of the best throwers. It's such a small experience level.
There must be something about the way they teach throwing in Japan, because so many of the handlers, year after year, you see new names come in to the Buzz Bullets, to the national teams, to Beach Worlds, and they have these sharp but very accurate, deadly throws that just beat teams, open the field wide open for their offense to take advantage of it. And what you said earlier is they looked calm. And that's one thing I didn't see from this Great Britain defense, was any pressure whatsoever. They just stood back and they said, oh, you know what, it's a little bit windy. Prove it to us that you can work down the field, and the Japanese were able to do that.
Yesterday, the Brits had a pretty easy opening game against India, winning 13-4, and then played the Danes, and it was basically even 6-6, 7-7. Great Britain knew it would be a tougher game, really tried to get emotionally ramped up for that one, and then turned it on late. Underneath, Ashley Yo. And on the near sideline, this is Ford.
It can be really tough, like you said, Evan, for these teams to turn up emotions early on in these tournaments. For a team like Great Britain,
Hammer to the end zone, right on the money. And into the grasp of Ashley Yo, who cut from the handler spot and beat his defender easily. Great field vision by Great Britain to lead 3-2.
When it's 5-on-5, you're going to see people come from different positions, and that's a cut from the handler spot, like you said, Evan. Very potent when there's a lot of space on the field to move around. Going back to what we were talking about before with the emotions, it can be very tough at these tournaments. They're a week long, and for Great Britain, my concern would be as a coach is looking too far ahead. You know, the one thing we talked about with them was USA, but there's at least two other strong teams here at this tournament, Canada and the Philippines, who are looking to do the same thing that they are. Are they looking too far ahead? Are they going to have trouble mentally staying with it in the early games? Those are going to be the questions for these next few days for Great Britain before we get to bracket play and then potentially semifinals and finals.
There are 16 teams in the open division competing. 2 pools, 8 teams per group. And basically everybody advances into the pre-quarters. 1A will play 8B. So you're battling for seeding, battling to get your legs under you, but much like USAU Nationals now, every team will be in the pre-quarter round, the round of 16, heading into the championship bracket.
And I think that's a good thing for all of the young communities that are here.
Beautiful float on this disc, and it's run down by Hiroshi Yuasa. On the precipice of the end zone, finds a crease and gets the score.
More hucking from Japan, you would think, and you can see the size difference on the field clearly. You would think a smaller team might try to avoid that, but they're so good at putting the right amount of speed on the disc, the right amount of float, so the receivers can run it down and don't have to go up for a 50-50 disc and contend with the taller athletes.
Yusuke Wakai hauls in the score. Japan turned it over on the first possession. One quick break for the UK, but since then, trading jabs back and forth.
And I just don't think we've seen the pressure that Great Britain needs to provide on defense. And we talked to Justin Ford, the captain, before the game about this, getting emotionally ramped up, getting ready to go. And I'm not sure that their defense is operating at 100% intensity yet. That's what they need to focus on. That's what's going to win them this game.
UK signals readiness and a low release flick pull. Probably would have sailed wide, but the UK takes advantage of the opportunity to start play quickly. Oh, and one bad mistake gives Japanese a window. Jamie Cross with the turnover. Just threw it well behind Ford. So the question is, Brian, is this the moment in this game? Does the UK defense really clamp down?
In this case, it might be the wake-up moment where they're saying, you know what, this is going to be a tighter game than we expected.
Oh, that's textbook dump swing, but just a little too much on that throw, looking into the end zone in pursuit of Hikari Sano.
And that's the evidence of how the youth on this Japanese team and how they're just not ready to go and operate. That's the quick movement that we typically see from these Japanese teams.
'Cause it was there.
Wide open in the end zone, but just an inaccurate throw.
Basically a 3-handler offensive set with 2 downfield cutters for the Brits.
And we see a zone here from the Japanese, and you'll notice how quickly they shift the look in and out. Lots of players moving around, very active. Not too much of disc watching, head on a swivel. Great zone defense fundamentals from the Japanese, and it's a lot of fun to watch if you're an ultimate junkie like I am.
Have you gotten your mind around all the different snippets of strategy that you see in 5-on-5 zones?
Not yet, but get a good lesson right here from the Japanese. Unfortunately, Great Britain able to slice and dice after figuring it out after a few throws.
Yeah, they got past that initial wave. I don't know if I'd call it a true cup, but getting it downfield and then in the end zone, Schumacher, who's somewhat regarded as one of the fastest guys, if not the fastest guy in Great Britain Ultimate.
It's a risky strategy to go with zone, especially in beach. The field is smaller, but it's not that much smaller, and 5 people is just not enough to really pin a team into the corner like you would want to in a normal 7-on-7 field. you don't mind the move early on in the game if you're Japan, because you forced a miscommunication turnover essentially before. You have to try it out and see what you can get.
So both teams turned it over one time on that last point, with Great Britain holding serve. The Brits are up a break. 13 minutes into this game, 45-minute soft cap. These beach games do fly by.
It's a lot of fun here on the beach in Dubai. It's great to be out of the upstate New York winter, where at one point it was colder than it was on Mars one morning when I woke up. I'll take the 90 Fahrenheit every day of the week.
Yeah, it is a very different scene here in the United Arab Emirates on the shores of the Persian Gulf. Not sure it was quite as cold in New York as it is in Britain, as a strip was called. Violation. Yuasa says he had the disc. Let's see. Very close.
There's some conversation going on. Actually, one of the English-speaking members, Ishii, coming out to help facilitate the conversation. And this is a part of Ultimate for maybe first-time viewers here on Dubai Sports. Self-refereeing, spirit of the game. There are no referees. All disputes are settled by players on the field. Any foul calls occur with them. And there's a system of contesting and uncontesting, basically agreeing or disagreeing with the call that determines what happens.
Yuasa keeps the disc. Back for Daishi. This is Shogo Inaguchi. Yuasa. Japanese team looking for the equalizer.
Great Britain content to let them move it backwards and give them those back passes.
Tsukasa Makino centers Daishi Tamba, one of the primary handlers. Attempted the around throw and looked like some contact, a foul called. Sam Bowen with the aggressive mark.
And he was showing the intensity right before the foul. Actually had a layout bid, was unsuccessful, but that's what they want him to bring, that athleticism, that intensity, and that's why he's fitting right at home. The only player from Chevron to seamlessly integrate here with a Clapham-oriented squad.
And Justin Ford was saying he's a monster, but not big enough to make that layout. Japan ties it up 4-4.
A seeing eye throw right through the middle of a defense, and that, again, is the skill of the Japanese. That's so much fun to watch. Just how low they can get on those throws. You're not going to see a team in the world that throws it lower on average in Japan and releases it from those nice crisp points.
It is like he marks down to the millimeter of where the defender's going to be and knows that he has just enough room to get that throw through there. So we're even, 4-all. On average, each point taking about 1.5 to 2 minutes. Pretty quick back and forth. Half would be at 7. Justin Ford giving some words of advice to the D-line, or to the...
It hasn't worked for either defense here, and I would like to see just more pressure, more risk-taking in terms of their strategy.
We'll see if that's how this unfolds over these next few points heading up to halftime. That rolled out the back, so Japanese team will be able to bring this to the front goal line of the end zone. Again, Japan 1-2 so far in pool play. Great Britain 3-0, looking to stay unbeaten. We asked Justin Ford, big picture, what are your goals for the week? And he didn't hesitate. We're here to win, he said.
And that would be unprecedented, really, at an international competition.
Oh, right on the money. A great put from Yusuke Wakai. Sort of a floaty backhand. Didn't look like it had very tight rotation when it left his hands, but just gently falls into the grasp of Hiroshi Yusa for the score.
Was able to get it off, but when I look here, the important thing is the reaction by the Great Britain defenders After that point, they all have their hands on their hips, kind of looking in the air, looking for an answer to this Japanese offense. And they're definitely confused right now. They're not sure what strategy they should switch to. It's going to be a process throughout this game. We talked about before, right? Great Britain played Denmark yesterday. They found themselves at 6-6, 7-7, and decided, okay, we need to change it up. They found the strategy and just took the game away from there right away.
Are you pretty surprised that Japan has played the Great Britain team even so far?
Surprised for sure. This Japanese team is featuring names that we haven't seen in a while. Some of them are veterans, some of them are very young players, and they're holding their own, and they're showing improvement because Japan coming into this game 1-2, I thought Great Britain might take a commanding lead and never look back.
And when Great Britain scored the first point so easily, it reinforced that notion. But it's been impressive how well the Japanese offense has converted. With that said, Great Britain's offense has only turned it over one time, and when they did turn it over, they got it right back. This is more of a daredevil throw, Japanese style, but great tiptoeing of the sideline. Justin Ford, the captain, able to stay in bounds for the UK score.
And he has the wherewithal to know where the line is. This is just what makes him one of the reasons why I call him a top 10 player in the world. You expect him to make that play. You're surprised if he doesn't.
UK now one away from halftime. You don't need to give me an order of the top 10, but who are some of the other names that right now in March of 2015 you think at the peak of their powers are the best 10 guys in the world?
There's a ton of names to go through, but I actually have pretty good at top 5, top 6. I don't know if I can get all the way to top 10, but I have Bo Kittredge, just unstoppable.
Even at
there's
age
nobody
33.
else like him. Then Kurt Gibson is, after that, is one of the most skilled all-around players. I take him number 2. I actually did in a Sky Fantasy draft. And then number 3, that's definitely a question. Mark Lloyd is a name that's coming up recently. Some younger players, Jimmy Mickle, Tyler DiGirolamo is also here with Team USA. And just there's so much talent around, but there's a lack of a lot of big, fast guys, and those are the guys you look to first.
Taking an early deep shot, intended for Hiroshi Yuasa. Can he get there? What a bid! We're tied 6-all as Japan keeps lighting it up on the offensive side of the disc.
This is what makes Ultimate great. You take a snapshot halfway through this play, and you think there's no way Yuasa is going to be able to get there. And then you get your doubt slowly erodes away as he gets closer and closer until that final crescendo where he makes the catch.
One of the more experienced guys on this inexperienced roster. He was part of the Japanese U23 team. He played for the U20 team before that. So he is at his first Beach Worlds, but not his first big international tournament.
That's really important for these teams. And we talked a little bit about this earlier and also in some other games about young programs coming in. This is a great opportunity for them to play against the best of the best, to see how they stack up and to see what good Ultimate really is and to hold themselves to a higher standard.
So we got a point for half here. Jamie Cross receives the pull for Great Britain. Ford left open, this sort of junky Japanese defense. It's like a 1-2-1-1 almost. With just a rabbit forced to run and chase the disc. No mark right now, no stall count.
The no mark zone, which may become popular now in the AUDL since they've changed the stalling rules.
Yeah, going to be very interesting to see how that rule maybe revolutionizes the game. Who knows?
And other teams, Sockeye has tried this. This is something that I've wanted to try myself.
Has had this feeling.
And you can see it on their faces, a lot of standard 7-on-7 games.
Well, the other teams run. Beautiful angle on that disc to the end zone.
Give and goes can be extraordinarily efficient because the mark tends to dig deep in the sand, get their feet stuck, harder for them to get out, and you're able to gain that separation right away.
And that's the Japan team's bread and butter, that give and go. Yuasa lets it fly. Great Britain has the height. Coming into the game, Justin Ford talked about how that would be a factor, and Sam Bowen, a monster at 191 centimeters. Now, I don't know how many feet and inches that is, but he's tall.
Yeah, we don't need a measurement on that to know how explosive and how intimidating that presence can be on the field.
Ollie Gordon has the disc. The Great Britain D-line on offense against the Japanese O-line here. Great Britain entered this tournament as the 3 seed in the open division. USA was number 1, and the team from the Philippines, the Boracay Dragons, as they are known, the number 2 seed. One of the things I was most looking forward to about this experience was getting to see them play in person.
We were very fortunate to see them already, and it was quite a treat. Explosive, fit, all-around good ultimate players. They took down Team Germany yesterday in some of the opening rounds.
Philippines and Great Britain will play later this afternoon, the same time as USA Canada. Too much good ultimate here as a spectator. Oh, and a miscommunication there from the Great Britain offense. It was Richard Harris, the cutter, who came in when the shot went further deep. And Japan will take the 1 timeout it has for the game. Daishi Tamba recognizing the importance of this point, and as you can see, the sun beating down on all these players. We have the luxury of shade under a tent. They do not.
And I'm glad we do, although I'll be excited at the end of the day to, after our commentary is over with, take a dip in the Persian Gulf right there, just, 50 feet away from us, or the edge of the field. And this is a great timeout call here by Japan, especially with how much time is remaining in this game. We're at 33 minutes. You're going to have 12 minutes of play left. This is a critical point. Everything is critical from here on out, and you have to treat it like that. It doesn't matter if you save your timeout for 5 minutes to go. Here, your players should be able to get the rest, the adjustments they need, and go ahead.
Here's the D from Sam Bowen, just going up over his much smaller Japanese counterpart, Kazuki Hatasa. And it looked like Great Britain was set to punch it in, but instead, Japan takes its timeout after the small bit of miscommunication for the Brits. What do you expect to happen, Brian? The Philippines and Great Britain, what are the deciding factors in that game?
Well, one of the players, Rodil, it was for the Philippines, was just a monster. He was the one tall receiver they had, and against Germany, nobody could stop him. So if Great Britain has done their scouting, has done their homework, they're going to sit there and try to target him right away, put their best defender. Perhaps we'll see Sam Bowen match up against him. But besides that, they play a lot like a Japanese style. They're a little bit smaller of a team, agile, with incredible disc skills. So I expect it to be a great game like this, if this has been any indication whatsoever. And the Philippines are here, just like Great Britain, to win the gold.
Who do you think's the favorite in that game, Great Britain or the Philippines?
I would say historically the Philippines. They came in as the number 2 seed, but it's a slight edge.
Very close.
They live on beach ultimate, and there's been so much footage coming out of the last couple of years of the Philippines, and you see more and more Americans now go actually to the Boracay Open, which just happened a couple of months ago.
I'll tell you what, the folks, oh, what a layout, D underneath. Ollie Gordon, full extension, gets the bid, and Great Britain looks to counter quickly. The Boracay Dragons, I think, are hoping that Great Britain wins this game, because it'd be tougher for them to face an angry Great Britain team coming off a loss.
You never know how a team is going to respond.
Crafty, little over-the-shoulder hammer from Richard Harris. And Great Britain, after a long back and forth rally gets the break. Actually, that's a hold of serve. That is a hold of serve. Such a long point, but up a break at the half. Gets that break there. 9-7 UK.
As you were talking about, the Philippines don't want to face an angry UK team. It's a double-edged sword in this situation. We saw yesterday in the women's division, Canada come in after a tight loss to USA, and they played Team Russia, a team that historically they would beat, and give a lot of credit to Team Russia. Pustovia coming through with some nice throws. But Canada does not give the effort that we just thought that we would see from them. Be wary of how a team's confidence can be shaken after a loss. They may come back angry and in the right mindset, but they also can go downhill.
A low, blady pull that rolls out the back. Japan will bring this up to the front of the end zone. I asked this to Megan before. What was your highlight or highlights from day one? Big storylines that you were surprised by, that you enjoyed? Take us through.
One of the things I was a little surprised about is how many teams were still putting things together, and I think that's the #1 storyline still, is every team's looking for chemistry. A lot of these teams were purely selected, did not go through a tryout process. Great Britain actually did. But in this case, it was chemistry. But my favorite thing to watch, we just talked about them, the Boracay Dragons. I had never seen them in person before, so that was quite the treat early on.
Wind is picking up and has kind of changed directions here. Most of the game it was blowing left to right. Now it's more of a crosswind coming right at our location on the near side of the field. This throw through that crosswind, contact, and a foul was called. Justin Ford went through the back of Akifumi Inouye. That's how it looked live. We have the benefit of the replay. What do you think?
I think that's a clear foul. Ford was trying to make an amazing play, but he has to go through the back, and he's touching the defender's hand first. Definitely affected the play.
Appears that Ford did not contest the call. So Inouye has the disc. Reset for Satori Ishii, the veteran. Been playing 20 years, now 39, although he does not look much older than 25, 26. Looks like he's still in incredible shape, especially for a guy who's on the verge of being eligible for Grand Masters. Wobbly disc still up in the air until Great Britain's Dominic Clark cleans up the trash. Shogo Inoguchi came up with that disc, but he ripped it out of the grasp of the Great Britain player. You can clearly see Great Britain got to it first. So it will stay with the Brits and Mark Gilbert. Gilbert's been playing Ultimate for a long time. Lefty centers it. Some of these guys on Great Britain are barefoot, others are wearing what are called sand socks, which are basically exactly what they sound like, although I had never really heard of them or seen them before coming to Dubai this week. But with the sand getting grilled by the sunshine most of the day, it is hot. You see with the black sand socks on, the score goes to Gilbert.
And this is more of what we expected from the beginning, this 10-7 lead from Great Britain. They're starting to take control. The wind picked up, unfortunately for Team Japan, who's done so well throughout this game. Just a lot of young promise. And if this is what Japan, if these are the players that are coming up through the ranks of the Japanese, they have a lot to look forward to, the continued success of the way they play, that play style. And that's one of the things that just makes Ultimate great at the highest levels is teams, when you're at an international level, teams don't play the same way. They have different strategies, they have different formations. Last year when I was in Lecco, Italy, I saw Singapore play for the first time, and they came out with a a one-handler and a six-cutter host stack all across the field. I wasn't sure that it was too great, but it was something I'd never seen before or tried.
One of these years, you'll see a 6-man cup.
I've already seen that, but not in the context of a serious game.
The one deep. So pretty much must convert time for the Japanese offense. Looking for Tsukasa Makino, and he cannot get there.
What a creative throw. It didn't work out, but just to have the vision to even see that possibility. Gotta give the Japanese credit. They are fearless when it comes to trying to make these plays.
One of the nice things about laying out on sand, it's usually a little more forgiving than laying out on grass or turf.
The only thing you're guaranteed is that get the disc or not, get the D or not, you're getting a face full of it.
For that reason, do you think guys try to lay out any differently on sand, or is it just you take what you get?
I think the more experienced guys here and the top athletes don't really care, but I've seen some guys try to go on their side when they could have gone forward already.
Looking deep, taking a size advantage in the explosive breakaway speed of Max McCartney. Great Britain on a 4-zip run since we were tied at 7-all.
And you see what you see in this picture in the background is Ollie Gordon at the end of his in cut. Great setup by Great Britain. Ollie Gordon was deep, comes under, opens up the space for McCartney. McCartney doesn't start his cut too far away. Well-placed put for the easy score.
I saw that the Japanese did a good job defending Gordon's undercut as well and sort of forced that deep, but it was the recognition of McCartney realizing that they didn't have that underneath. He just took off, and when it was tossed up in the air, it looked like a 50-50 disc, but McCartney broke away from his defender with ease.
You talked about earlier, I think, with the broadcast with Megan a little bit about some of these athletes look like they're in slow motion, and there are some guys that start to even look faster as a result. McCartney showed some true speed on that one, and we'll have to look forward to see if Rob Schumacher, who's the fastest player in GB, can make any more plays here today.
So Japan trying to get its first score of the second half, looking for it all. Yuasa once again. Full field throw about 45 meters in the air from Daishi Tamba to Hiroshi Yuasa, the former U23 phenom, the international veteran. Plays the game with a smile on his face.
Great Britain did a poor job coming down on defense. They left nobody to mark the thrower. As a result, the thrower can choose the backhand throw. A lot more spin on it, can just toss it out in front for Yuasa. If you're going to leave the mark open, you have to be able to contain that because too easy for these experienced huckers.
So 11-8. United Kingdom leading Japan about a minute away from the soft cap. Yusuke Wakai to pull for this Japanese team. Again, in the open division, every team makes it to bracket play. And this Japanese team, as it continues to gain experience and come together, you know, if they finish 5th or 6th or 7th in that 8-team pool, that's going to be a dangerous crossover matchup in a pre-quarter for somebody.
They become the team that nobody really wants to play. And in that situation, that's a great underdog story in the making.
Break this zone down for us, Brian.
You see a 1-2-2 where the mark, the sole person giving chase here, and you see a lot of the players downfield looking for the cutters coming in. You notice that they aren't watching the disc. They're doing a great job of communicating. There's only one player on the mark again, and just communicating back and forth, and that's what it has to rely on. They don't use what's normally called a cup, so they don't have multiple players around the disc, only one to set the mark, and everybody else has to make sure they're doing their job.
Ford on the brink of the end zone. Scuber, crossfield, Schumacher. Resets to the middle and cross. You can see, I think everyone here is thinking about a hammer for a score.
And you see the Japanese stay in the zone.
Even near the end zone, but finally J.J. Howell makes it 12-8. Great Britain one away.
And Japanese will do that, though. They're not afraid to stay in their zone. A lot of teams will transition to man right away, person-to-person defense, but the Japanese will stay in that look for as long as possible, hoping to force a miscommunication, an errant throw, anything they can get their hands on. They don't feel like they can contend matched up directly with those athletes of Great Britain.
And a lot of time the zone, forces the offense to work harder for it. You're sort of counting them to make the mistake, let the exterior elements like the wind or a drop come into play. That time Great Britain nice and smooth. Cap is on, it's game to 13 regardless, as Great Britain on the verge of improving to 4-0. And up next for the Brits, the Boracay Dragons. Team from the Philippines. That'll be off into the distance for us over on field 6. Of course, this is field number 1.
Home to the top 4 commentators in the game right now.
We would be on any top 5 line, I would think, for a beach ultimate team. Japan looking for one more highlight, but that sails deep. So the United Kingdom will have the disc here in no particular hurry. I'll have about a 2-hour and 10-minute break to recuperate and hydrate and find some shade and perhaps a little lunch, and then the Philippines.
I think you're describing what we're going to be doing as well, but we have USA versus Canada after this in an hour.
We've been enjoying the shade throughout. I'm going to go get some sunshine.
I got plenty of sunshine in day 1 and suffering the wrath of burned feet.
That's over the outstretched fingertips of Bowen, so Japan not done yet. We'll be back on the air, 3 o'clock local time, 7 a.m. Eastern on the East Coast of the United States. USA versus Canada. Those two countries have had some great battles at different world championships in the past. As Japan strikes one more time in the end zone, it's Shogo Inaguchi. We've heard from him many times. Great Britain will receive here, trying to put this away. What are your early thoughts about that USA-Canada game? Things you'll be looking for early in that one?
The first thing I'm going to be looking at is how is the chemistry of the U.S. team. Both teams are selecting basically all-stars, but Canada has a history of East versus West, where the East and West often combined. USA is taken from multiple communities, much more of a smattering of different players. And how are they playing together? Are they improving throughout the tournament? They should be the prohibitive favorite because of their talent. However, how are they playing together? Can Canada take advantage of the fact that USA might have their own miscommunications, their own issues to work through?
That Canadian team has some pretty experienced players, just they don't have Mark Lloyd, they don't have Toli Vasiliev or Morgan Hibbert or some of the, but they do have Andrew Lugsden, Alex Davis, Trevor Henry, Jeff Powell. I mean, they've got some firepower that they will bring to the table.
Alex Davis is a brilliant strategist, and just writing wonderful articles on skydmagazine.com. I love everything he has to say on defense and strategy in game. And then the legend.
He's not a bad athlete either. He's not
right,
just a man of the written word like you and me.
That's right. He's a tenacious handler defender. And then you hear about Andrew Luggson when you look at the roster, and that's a name you haven't seen on an open Canadian roster in a long time. And he's the legendary captain from Furious George, where they said they wish that they had a phone call from him in 2012 Worlds where he would just call everybody up and yell at them just to get them fired up.
He is a fortress of an athlete. USA Canada coming up a little over 2 hours from now. Megan Tormey will join Brian and myself for that one. Pulling out all the stops. UK for the win. And the British team improves to 4-0 here at Beach Worlds 2015 in Dubai. A 13-9 win over a very pesky Japanese squad. It was 7-all late in the first half, but the Brits took half 8-7 and cruised after halftime. What was the difference in the second half, Brian?
The Japanese just could not keep up when it mattered most. They made those mistakes. They were perfect through the first half nearly, and Great Britain finally just started taking advantage of those miscues. It's a very promising sign for this young Japanese team, and a good sign here for Great Britain, who's looking to go on and potentially take gold.
So the final, the Brits win it 13-9. They've beaten India, Denmark, and Germany, and now Japan. They're 4-0, getting ready to face the Boracay Dragons of the Philippines. That's in a couple of hours. We'll have USA and Canada with you a little over 2 hours from now. For everyone with Dubai Sports and Skyd Magazine, we thank you so much for being with us all across the world. For Brian Jones and our entire crew, this is Evan Lepler saying so long for now. Great Britain was great down the stretch, and the Brits are still perfect here on the beach.